Well, first, we want to say thank you for taking the time to sit down with us, just to give the community an opportunity to learn a little bit about you and
Sure.
hear what you have to
Thanks
say.
for the opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. So, first question we're going to talk to you about is what inspired you to become state's attorney and what continues to motivate you in this work?
Right out of law school, I became a prosecutor, and I was driven to that because I've always kind of had a social work heart, social work background, loved working in communities. And I saw that the prosecutor's job gives you the opportunity to not only to find justice, but to help people who find themselves within the justice system, ideally not as a victim, but oftentimes as a victim, but also sometimes to help offenders get back on track.
Right.
So I saw that role as an opportunity to make a difference in public safety in my community. I then left the prosecutor's office, did some years in private practice to get the other side's perspective. I've been involved in municipal government, but throughout the time, it always was calling me back to be a prosecutor.
Right.
And I thought, what better place to do it than where I was living at the time in Kankakee County.
How do you balance your duty to pursue justice with the practical limitations that come with managing a public office?
You work harder and you work longer hours. Upholding public safety in the community is not the state's attorney's job or the police's job. It's really a team of people. It's law enforcement, it's prosecutors, it's social workers, it's church leadership, community leadership. But once they've come into the courthouse with a case, then it squarely falls upon our shoulders. You're always not going to have enough prosecutors, enough clerks, enough paralegals. That's part of government. That's part of the criminal justice world, I suppose. But you find a way. You prioritize the more violent cases. We have found opportunities to divert low-level, nonviolent, first-time offenders, whether it's into a treatment program or diversion program. That can always help you keep your caseload down somewhat. But what you can't control is what comes into the office.
Right.
The type of crime, the number of crimes, the number of cases every year, and it fluctuates. So what we do up here is, regardless of the caseload, we work harder, we work longer hours just to make sure we meet that demand.
How do you decide when someone should not be prosecuted as far as, regularly the normal route, but as far as going into the rehabilitation and all that other stuff, the diversion?
So all decisions in this office are driven by evidence. So if there's evidence there to file criminal charges, you then have to decide, are we going to bring that person into the system based on the evidence, or are they someone that we could produce a better public safety outcome by diverting them into a diversion program? A run-of-the-mill, let's take a nonviolent crime, okay? Retail theft. So someone goes into our community, they commit a retail theft. Perhaps it's an item over $300, which in Illinois makes it a felony. So they steal a cell phone. What we have to decide at that moment is, if we have enough evidence, what produces the best public safety outcome? We can prosecute that person through a traditional prosecution, bring them into court, convict them of a felony. They'd probably, under those circumstances, be sentenced to maybe jail time, but probably probation by the court if convicted. And then you put them out in your community as a convicted felon for stealing a cell phone. That limits their ability to provide for their family, to provide housing, to obtain education, to obtain employment. And it really has a terrible impact then on not only their life, even though they committed the crime, but also on their children, their family members, and all of us who are now going to have to support this individual. Alternatives to that we look at is, what caused this person to commit this crime? Is it a drug addiction? And if it is someone that's suffering from addiction, is it a better route to convict them of a felony and put them back into the community, or to give them the opportunity to get clean through our drug treatment court? Are they a veteran? If they're a veteran, are they suffering from mental illness, PTSD, all the things that can come from serving our country? If so, again, what are your options? Convict this veteran of a nonviolent felony, or place him into a veterans treatment court? Same thing with our mental health court now. Judge Parkhurst really pushed that initiative a couple of years ago. And what a great tool we have when someone comes in, their conduct is being driven by mental illness. Here's an opportunity for them to get counseling, therapy, medication monitoring, providing them with all the resources and tools to help them become stable and be able to stay into the community, ideally without committing future crimes. Sometimes our hand is forced. You commit a violent crime. You commit a crime that is maybe mandatory prison. A diversion program is not going to be available to you. But when our criteria, so to say, is that, one, are you eligible for it by statute? And if you are, will that program produce a better public safety outcome? If it will, we should all be in favor of it. If it won't produce a better public safety outcome, if it makes our community less safe, then the traditional prosecution route, although not perfect, might be the better option there.
You've been critical of parts of the Safety Act and even challenged it in court. What concerns did you have, and how do you see the future of pretrial reform in Illinois?
So I would start by saying cash bail was not a concern of mine. The analogy I give is that if you and I, Carson, are convicted of the same crime, let's say we're accused of the same crime, we have the same criminal background, we did the exact same thing, and we're both arrested, and you have the means to bail out under the cash system and I don't, that's an unfair system. Yeah. Because now I am sitting in custody fighting a case simply because I don't have the means to post bail. Uh-huh. That's not fair. So I understand the need to reform that, and shifting away from a cash bail system seems like a good idea. The problem with the Safety Act is it went much farther than that. What they did was they literally, the legislators, put the judge's gavel in their hands and they decide when he swings it now. Uh-huh. So you have individuals who are arrested of serious crimes, who the judge can't decide to detain them. I can't ask for them to be detained because the law has already said that those are non-detainable offenses. Yeah. I'll give you a terrible example, actually, aggravated assault with a firearm. In Illinois, that's where someone brandishes a gun, points it at you, and says, I'm going to shoot you. That's an aggravated assault. Seems like it should be a more serious level offense. Mm-hmm. It's a Class A misdemeanor. Under the Safety Act, that person cannot be detained. I can't ask to detain them. The judge can't decide, even if he finds they're a danger to the community, the judge cannot detain them because the legislature has stepped into that role and under the Safety Act said, this is a non-detainable offense. Okay. So my issue with the Safety Act is not that it eliminated cash bail. My issue is that it made certain dangerous offenses non-detainable. Right. My role as state's attorney is to do my best to ensure public safety. And everyone always hears that the criminal justice system is a revolving door. Commit a crime, come right back in, commit a crime on repeat. What the Safety Act does is the law now spins that turnstile for that criminal. It makes it a revolving door that the legal system is turning for them. And that's where my criticism has come in.
What's your approach to working with local law enforcement agencies as far as upholding standards and accountability?
Cooperation and communication. Yeah. There's been times in every prosecutor's office or law enforcement department where there's not a lot of working together. And by working together, I mean communicating about cases, communicating about policies, making sure that when laws are changed, that policies and procedures are changed to align with them. We've built a great relationship with local law enforcement. We meet with our detectives and sergeants quarterly in a countywide meeting where they can all come and voice their complaints. Because if I don't know about a problem, I can't address the problem. Right. And the same thing goes for them. We're able to address concerns we might have about reports including or not including some information, changes in the law. So for that, the communication is really, really crucial. And as long as we keep those open lines of communication, we work with each other with transparency, I think we're both working toward better public safety in Kankakee County.
Kankakee is one of few counties with a full-time clinical social worker in the prosecutor's office. How has that impacted your juvenile cases?
It helps tremendously, but not only in the juvenile cases, in our adult cases as well. Having a social work background, having other people in the office with a social work background means that we can look at these cases from different facets. Like I talked about earlier with the treatment courts, right? Diversion programs. I think that when you have people who are not just with an attorney mindset, but a citizen mindset, a helper mindset, they're going to be able to help us identify youth and adult offenders where we can produce better public safety outcomes by either through prosecution or sometimes through diverting that prosecution. Right. Additionally, I would just add to that, we're all very familiar with the trauma that children in our community experience, whether it's food insecurity, domestic violence in the home, parents not being in the home due to incarceration or some other reason. So when you have individuals in the office who understand adverse childhood experiences, the impact of trauma, especially in the juvenile court system, you can start to make sure that for the kids that have to be brought into the system because of the nature of their crime, that they're still being provided with those resources, with the hopes that when they get out, when they've served their time, we won't see them come back through here.
You've launched programs like the Real Justice Fishing Club. Why are community-based efforts like these important to you?
Our community has a great resource with the river. I grew up in a concrete jungle in Chicago, but I grew up fishing. You know, my parents, we went on camping trips, often at the Kankakee River Dam in Wilmington, Lake Will, Fossil Rock, and Braidwood. I spent most of my summers there. So fishing is something, pardon the pun, I got hooked on at a young age, kept me out of a lot of trouble. So I see that as an odd solution to public safety, but a solution nonetheless. Yeah. Through our Real Justice program, we're not only inviting kids out to fish. Kids are coming with their moms and their dads and their grandparents or their mentors with trusted adults. They're being provided with the experience and the mentorship of more experienced anglers, as well as all the things they need to go drop a line on their own time. Mm-hmm. So what we found is the more we teach kids and their parents to fish and the skill of angling, they're then engaging in that outside of our sessions. One young man recently was quoted in the local newspaper as saying he's in the Northern Illinois Anglers Association Fishing Derby. His goal was to win it, of course, like all of our goal is every year, to catch the biggest fish. And he said he was inspired to do that and get involved in this through our Real Justice program. So that program is accomplishing exactly what we want it to: get kids involved in things they can do with their parents, their guardians, that are positive, that are healthy, and hopefully keep their attention away from, you know, the things we less like them to get involved in.
Yeah. So I know the JUMP program recently lost funding. Can you tell us a little bit about that? A little bit about what happened and what you're going to do going forward with that.
Our JUMP program is a juvenile mentoring program. We started it approximately 6 years ago with a grant from AmeriCorps. At the time, and really still today, we are the only prosecutor's office in the country that is an AmeriCorps service site. So that allows people in the community to volunteer their time, to invest their time in helping their community in exchange for usually a small stipend. Sometimes it's $30 a month, $50 a month, as well as a tuition voucher. So if you're a college student, if you're the parent or grandparent of a college student, you can invest those hours in mentoring a kid, earn a tuition voucher, and use it for yourself or your family members. Mm-hmm. Through that program, we've had well over 100, 125 over the years, youth who are system involved, in other words, have come into the court system, be paired with a mentor. We've seen drastic improvements in recidivism rates through that program. In the state of Illinois, recidivism, which is the rate at which someone who breaks the law and gets caught ends up back in the system a second time. In Illinois, that rate's about 50 to 53%. Oh. For the youth in our program, the recidivism rate was under 10%. Oh, wow. So significant difference and a huge benefit to public safety. 6 years into the grant, there are three-year terms, so we had gotten renewed for a second term. We were coming up on our third term, we hoped, but it wasn't to be. There were some cuts made to the AmeriCorps program, which have trickled down to the state of Illinois. I think some 26 out of 33 programs have been impacted, and ours was among them. Not bitter about that. Grants are not forever. They're not supposed to be. So we're working right now to find out how we can maybe bridge that gap, that funding gap, to keep the program going, fuel it through volunteers, or ideally, others in our community would step into this gap. We have a lot of churches in Kankakee County. I think they're very well positioned to match their parishioners with youth in our community who need mentoring, continue to provide those same services, so we can continue to see the same results. Under 10% recidivism rate is phenomenal, and we're trying to do everything we can right now to keep that going.
If you had an entire day to do whatever you wanted, what would we find you doing?
If it's a weekday, I would be here at work. I enjoy my job that much.
I mean, without work.
Without work, I'd probably be kayaking on the river.
Yeah.
It's so peaceful. You can't bring your cell phone out there because you don't want it to get wet.
Right.
So it is literally brings me back to my childhood in a way where there was no cell phone. When you were out, no one had any way to reach you. And being on a kayak, fishing along the river, definitely is my go-to activity to relax. Probably my ideal day, if not in the bleachers of a ball game.
What advice would you give to young people considering a career in law or public service?
Absolutely do it. I know when people approach many attorneys or police officers about being interested in a career in law enforcement or public service, the quip is always, don't do it. I am the exact opposite. If you think that you are drawn to public service, if you are drawn to public safety, absolutely do it. Pursue it. It's the only way to really make a difference in your community. And you don't have to go into government for that. You don't have to work for a police department. You can work for nonprofits. You can work for private corporations. But if helping people is what drives you, caring for your community is what drives you, absolutely pursue it. I go to work every single day. I can assure you I work more than 40 hours a week, and a lot of 2 and 3 a.m. phone calls. Mm-hmm. Despite all of that and the stress that naturally comes with a job like this, I don't know that I ever work a day in my life because I enjoy it so much. Yeah. It gives me, maybe that's my social worker's heart, but it gives me the opportunity to give back to a community that's given me a lot, and hopefully help people along the way.
When you look back one day, what do you hope your legacy will be as Kankakee County State's Attorney?
I don't look at it as any personal legacy. I am one member of a team of attorneys, of our community division workers, paralegals, clerks, office managers, victim witness advocates. There's no individual legacy up here because none of this work is driven by one person. If I wasn't here tomorrow, the work would go on in the office, and it went on before me. But I would hope that during my tenure, people would look at the state's attorney's office as a whole and say that we were fair, that we did the best we could with the information we had, the resources we had at our fingertips, and that we did our best to make the community better, and hopefully in some small way we leave it better.
We're going to do some of those rapid fire one-word answers, so I know we know this from stepping inside your office, but Sox or Cubs?
Absolutely, Chicago Cubs. Chicago has one baseball team, and it's the Cubs.
Some people won't like that, including myself. Favorite calendar season?
I'm going to go with November, October, November. I like fall.
Yeah.
Fall weather. You've been through the heat. It's starting to cool off a little bit. Light jacket season. Yeah, I'm for fall.
Favorite fish to catch?
Definitely catfish.
Okay.
It's easy. You can sit on the shore. Not a lot of work involved in that. A great way to relax. And when you do hook one, the fight's on.
Oh, yeah. Do you play golf at all?
I do not.
No golf?
No.
Okay.
If it's nice enough to golf, I fish.
Okay, yeah. That's fair. So when you're catching catfish, what's maybe not the easiest bait to use, but what's the bait? Let's say you're trying to catch a big one. You decide one day you're going to go out there and you're going to try and catch the biggest catfish you can. What is the bait that you're going to use?
You got to go with the stinkiest bait you can get.
Yeah.
Leave those livers or those shrimps out in the sun all day or 2 days. Let them get really bad to where you can't stomach it. Put that on a hook. Or, of course, bluegill. Bluegill is what I see a lot of people using to catch the really big catfish.
Yeah. We're going to keep going with just a few more. Mm-hmm. What does justice mean to you in practice, not just in law?
You know, justice is a word that is really evasive to a simple or singular definition. I teach a public safety class at a local university, and that's actually our final exam question to define justice.
Oh, really?
And there's never a wrong answer. In my mind, justice is a result that is, of course, fair, but also equitable, understands that we're never going to obtain a perfect outcome, but we obtain an outcome that makes a survivor whole, that appropriately punishes the offender, and gives the community a sense of safety and security.
What role does mental health play in how your office approaches crime prevention and rehabilitation?
There's been a lot of studies done on the role of mental health in the criminal justice system as a whole, beyond this county. Mm-hmm. And we know that a lot of people come in contact with the criminal justice system due to mental health, whether it's at a degree that would show up in an assessment or not. Many people who come into the system suffer from some form of mental illness, whether it's debilitating or something that they're able to manage. Unfortunately, there's a huge lack of resources for people who suffer from mental health crises. If you are in a mental health crisis, it's fairly unlikely that you're going to have employment, which means it's unlikely you're going to have access to medical insurance, mm-hmm. which makes it very, very hard to obtain not only care, but quality care. So many of those individuals end up in the criminal justice system because there's not proper treatment available to them in the community. Once they're in the system struggles with treating them because we have limited mental health hospitalizations in the state of Illinois. Some of the wait lists are 6 to 8 months or longer. Wow. That means someone who is in the system, in jail for really as a result of their mental illness, is sitting in our jail waiting for a bed. That's a terrible process to be caught up in. At the same time, even with mental health court, there are limited resources in everything we do. We couldn't possibly put 100 people through our mental health court system with the resources we have. So sometimes you have to be selective. Thankfully, we haven't had to turn anyone away yet that qualified for the program. But mental health plays a huge role, not only in the criminal justice system, but in public safety as a whole. Yeah. And until that's addressed on a level outside of the courts, it's probably going to be a mainstay here, unfortunately.
What's one aspect of the criminal justice system in Illinois that you believe is misunderstood by the general public?
I think the Safety Act, by far. When the Safety Act was passed, the politicians who voted for it weaved a tale of lies that under the Safety Act, and maybe they weren't lying, maybe they just misunderstood what they voted for. It was a 700-page bill that they had an hour or two to review. So I can understand mistakes could be made in interpreting it. But they told a story that all crimes are detainable and that dangerous individuals can be detained. That is simply not true. The law sets forth a number of categories of offenses for which someone can be detained, but anything not included in that list is a non-detainable offense. Again, aggravated assault. Someone points a gun at me and tells me they are going to shoot me and kill me. That is a non-detainable offense. Wow. I can see it as dangerous. Most people in the public can see it as dangerous. The judge would likely see it as a dangerous crime, non-detainable offense under the Safety Act. Artificial intelligence, all the AI programs out there, depending on how you put the question in, they will spit out misinformation saying that is a detainable crime when it's not, because of all the misinformation that was put out there by our legislature when they passed the bill. So that is a huge hurdle for us. People continue to blame prosecutors and police and judges for that spinning wheel of the criminal justice system, offenders coming in and getting right out, when in fact the legislature took that power away from prosecutors, police, and judges to detain people. Yeah. That is probably the biggest piece of misinformation, is how much reform is needed to make the Safety Act truly safe.
Yeah, and this is a little off topic, but I've never understood why they had so little time to review that many documents. I mean, you see it in Congress, but not just Congress, even just in Illinois, like the spending budget that passed recently. Why do they have so much little time to go through that?
I would venture a guess that the reason you propose a bill on one reading at 3 a.m., in the middle of night while no one is watching, is because you know that if we had been able to read that bill, if the world had been watching, that bill wouldn't have passed.
That's pretty much going to do it for us. Okay. A lot of these you kind of covered in your other answers as well, but cool. we appreciate it so much. Cool. This is our first one, so we really appreciate